Hello YouTube. Today is a most memorable day for Southern California and Los Angeles, being Wednesday, January 25th, when we received the announcement that Elon Musk is going to actually do the tunnels under Los Angeles to make it convenient for him to get from his home to Hawthorne, California. I've already talked about Hawthorne and the secrets it contains and many more mysteries that can be found in that area, and that's not what I want to talk about today. I do want to talk about the possibilities that Elon Musk's decision opens up for our area and the unwanted consequences. And I think before he proceeds, he should read a little bit and maybe look at some old legends. So let's look at them together. Elon Musk's plan is to start digging into Los Angeles soil from his headquarters in Hawthorne. Like I said, it's about 5 miles away from the LAX. What he may unleash is scary, and not because it's the Los Angeles bureaucracy that will have to decide whether his work will go through and all the permits and everything else. Not even the earthquakes. But he is going to cut into the old and still unresolved story about the so-called lizards people underground cities in our area. The book I really suggest that he reads before he undertakes his project is called The Geology of the Los Angeles Basin, California. It's an introduction, and it was published in 1965. It's a very interesting book and will tell Musk all that he needs to know, in my opinion, about geology of our region and what he may encounter. However, he also needs to know the story that I mentioned a few times before and do want to go into now. The story, it goes like this. Probably in the fall of 1933, there was a Los Angeles mining engineer whose name was G. Warren Shufelt. At that time, he surveyed the Los Angeles area for the deposits of oil and gold and other quite valuable stuff. And he used a special device that he invented, he said. So deep under the Los Angeles financial district and, central downtown, basically hundreds of feet below the downtown high-rises, what he said exists is a city, an ancient city that is remembered in the Indian Hopi legends. It was an underground sanctuary that was built by a strange civilization that basically vanished about 5,000 years ago. Now, G. Warren Shufelt revealed all of this in to the Los Angeles Times in January 29 of 1934, so we can have an anniversary soon. There was a reporter that he spoke to. I believe the name was Jean Bosquet, and Shufelt revealed that he was going to dig up basically underground in the downtown Los Angeles area to find this ancient subterranean world. He heard about this city in a Hopi Indian legend, and this was the city about the so-called lizard people. Now, in my opinion, and that's my opinion, those were the people that worshipped a lizard cult, but others considered them to be lizard people, so I'm not going to go into that. According to the Hopis, this was a lost race who had been nearly wiped out after a meteor shower rained down on the southwest, as we know today, that area. Approximately 3,000 before Common Era. 3,000 years before Common Era. What's interesting to me, and I mentioned it before, is that according to modern archaeologists, the Native Americans who had inhabited Southland area had disappeared from here about 4,000 years ago. and there was no explanation why they disappeared and why 2,000 years after that the civilization came back again. Now, according to the story about Shufelt, the lizard people constructed 13 subterranean cities. It was along the Pacific coast, as far as I remember, to give shelter to the tribe against future disasters and catastrophes. The underground cities housed thousands of families, all different cities, and there were stockpiles of food. And to create the cities, the ancient tribe used a special chemical substance that would melt into solid bedrock and make tunnels and rooms for the shelters. And I will tell you in the future my personal research about the similar substance that was discovered in South America by archaeologists, and this was used by people in those lands to melt rock, to make it usable, to make cities out of it, to build things out. This is very interesting, but it's not part of our story today. So the underground tunnels were constructed also to hold the so-called golden tablets, where written was the chronicle of the tribe's history, the origin of mankind, and the story of our world that goes back basically to the creation. And of course Shufelt was very much interested in those tablets too, and who wouldn't be? All this was told to Mr. Shufelt by a Hopi chief named Little Greenleaf. And he is the one that indicated that the city of the tribe that has disappeared is actually located under the present day Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. And you know what, with all the construction in the area going on nowadays, they might find something. Who knows? I'm not just sure if it's going to be revealed. But in 1933, Shufelt was most interested in the property at 518 North Hill Street. And he made a shaft, and he was digging for a treasure room down below. He believed that that's where the gold would be located, and he used his special radio X-rays. Now I won't go into full story. You can find it yourself, and why he believed that the city was shaped as a giant lizard, where the head was and the tail and so forth. It brings you back to the present day Los Angeles and some of the interesting locations. So the next time you go to the Central Library, you will know what to look for, or at least know what you're standing on. So that was all very interesting, and to me and to this story, and basically to the whole Hawthorne focus of my research, it's the ventilation channels or tunnels that extended westward, opening in the Pacific Ocean, that are of the most interest. And that will be to Elon Musk too, if he starts digging down below, and if this story is true. So after all this work, extensive efforts and money put in, apparently Shufelt never did find anything that he was looking for. So the city authorized the work, and he had the funds to do it. And after some time, actually about a year later, the work was stopped. I think it was flooded. The shaft was flooded, but again, you will find out details. Now, some people claim that he disappeared and his co-workers without trace. Actually, I found out that he passed away in 1957 and is buried in Los Angeles. The whole story was relatively forgotten, and nobody brings it up much anymore, maybe except me and a few other people, I guess. As I know, there are some tunnels that cannot be explained that have been found in the downtown Los Angeles area, but people usually find explanation for those tunnels. For example, it was used by the illegal Chinese laborers, and maybe the speakeasies of the 1920s and so forth. What's interesting to me is that we do need to listen to the Indian or Native American legends. I have been interested in the mountain Shasta since my teenage years in California. Shasta, by the way, is Shasta in Russian, but it's not Shasta that we're going to speak about today. But I do know that throughout all of the American continents, there are legends from going back to ancient times, native memories of subterranean passages that stretch out for miles. After some great disaster, cataclysm, the ancestral North Indians lived in the underground complexes until it was safe to return to the upper world. I want to talk about the Hopis, if I pronounce it right, but Hopi or Hopi people. They occupy an area in the high desert plateaus in the southwest, and they're one of the best known Native American tribes all around. In their language, Hopi means peaceful, kind, and gentle, truthful people. Hopis have a fabulous, rich mythological cycle about their arrival from a world deep inside the earth, and we'll speak about it. It's very interesting. Tava is the creator for the Hopi people, and it is he who formed the so-called first world out of Tokpela, or endless space, and he created its original inhabitants. Tava caused creation of 9 universes. This is very interesting to me because I've studied Siberian legends, looking for another very interesting story that I'll share with you as soon as I can. But the number of universes and the creation cycle, it reminds me of something else that I read about Siberian Russian Far East. The universes were created by the nephew of Tava. His name was Sotuknang. Tava destroyed the third world in a great flood. I'll mention a little bit more about that world. Also, the so-called Spider Woman, or Koyan Gvuti, the special benefactor of the Hopi people, she was the one that created humans from clay, with the assistance of Sotuknang and Tava. And she was also responsible for leading the people she created to the fourth world, and that's our present Earth. That's where SpaceX is located, and where we exist, and everybody else on this Earth. Hopi legends tell us that the current Earth is the fourth world to be inhabited by Tava's creations. The Hopi knew that humans would develop many powerful technologies that actually would be abused or misused. Hopi elders in the 20th century talked about the possibility of the fourth world's end. The fourth world shall end soon, and then the fifth one will begin. And this reminds me of legends of other people around the world. But let's limit ourselves to the southwest of the United States. What would happen is that there will be a very unstable climate. There will be specific signs of social and political upheavals before the end of the world. In their prophecies, the earth would change, and there will be earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, floodings, famines, and so forth. Hopi prophecies predicted that there will be modern technological advances. What's interesting to me is that they predicted that people would ride in spinning wheels filled with voices. The land will be crossed by snakes of iron. The land shall be crisscrossed by a giant spider's web. Well, also, this web, I guess, will turn black, and many living people will die because of it. The Hopi stated that one of the final signs, the 9th one, would be when people would be living in the sky. So we're talking about spaceships, space stations, and I believe it went like this: you will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens, above the earth, that shall fall with a great crash. It will appear as a blue star. Very soon after this, the ceremonies of the Hopi people will cease. And those were the signs that the great destructions is coming. In 1992, there was an announcement or pronouncement from the Hopi elder who said that we were told that someone would try to go up to the moon and that they would bring something back from the moon, and that after that nature would show signs of losing its balance. Now we see that coming about. All over the world there are signs, many signs, that nature is no longer in balance. And then further on it mentioned then the world will turn over 4 times and will leave only ants here to start a new life. And we should talk, by the way, about ant civilizations and the lone leaf lands and others, but not this time. What's interesting is that in 1959 a delegation of 6 traditional Hopi leaders led by the late spiritual leader Den Kavachongwa traveled to the United Nations building in New York to fulfill a sacred mission in accordance with the ancient Hopi instructions. Only a handful of delegates at the UN actually received the Hopi Indian leaders and heard their message. Too bad. Too bad, because the Hopi delegation told the United Nations the following. Back in 1948, a number of Hopi leaders, age leaders, about 80, 90, even 100 years old, explained that the Creator made the first world in perfect balance, where humans spoke one language, but humans turned away from moral and spiritual principles. They misused their spiritual powers for selfish purposes. They did not follow nature's rules. Eventually the world was destroyed by sinking of land and separation of land by what you would call major earthquakes. Only a handful survived. Okay? So we've heard similar stories from other mythologies and writings of people of the world. But let's continue. The Hopi leaders also said that this handful of peaceful people came into the second world. They repeated their mistakes and the world was destroyed by freezing, which you call the Great Ice Age. So the few survivors entered the third world. That world lasted a long time, and as in previous worlds, the people spoke one language on this planet. The people invented many machines and conveniences of high technology, some of which have not yet have been seen in this age. They mean the fourth age. They even had spiritual powers that they used for good. They gradually turned away from natural laws and pursued only material things, and finally only gambled while they ridiculed spiritual principles. No one stopped them from this course, and the world was destroyed by the great flood that many nations still recall in their ancient history or in their religions. The elders said again that only small groups escaped and came to this fourth world where we now live. Our world is in terrible shape again, even though the Great Spirit gave us different languages and sent us to 4 corners of the world and told us to take care of the earth and all that is in it. This was in 1959. 1959. And yet, what has changed? So, when Elon Musk will want to go ahead, and I think he will, and try to dig tunnels under Los Angeles, and assuming he is allowed to, I think he should think twice and read the old ancient stories. And for those of you who are interested to learn more about the Hopis, of course there are many resources, but I also suggest some of the articles that late John Keel wrote back in 1974. Very interesting stuff about the Hopi Indians that I didn't go into it here, but I'm sure we will find a way. Thank you.